How's it going, friends? Welcome to New Brighton, Minnesota. I'm telling you, the value proposition on New Brighton is really hard to match. And this is the first video we've done on this channel about New Brighton. Let's get after it. How's it going, friends? My name is Jesse Lynch. I run the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To the Twin Cities, and you can check out our website, tothetwincities.com. But this YouTube channel is all about helping you find a place to call home here in the beautiful Twin Cities of Minnesota. And relocation is what we do, and it's what we do better than anybody else. So if that appeals to you, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel, click that little bell to get notified so you can see every time these videos come out. And if you wouldn't mind, give the video a thumbs up. I don't say that too often anymore, but I sure would appreciate it in this video. If you want to work with us, we would love to help. You can go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less, or you can choose an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. Personally, I think the website is the way to go. It's quicker, it's easier for us, and we just get the show on the road, kind of get things going, get you into the systems that we have figured out, again, to help people relocating. The wind sure is picking up. We've worked with so many people relocations. I've literally helped hundreds of people with relocation, and I've solved a bunch of the problems, a bunch of the concerns, a bunch of the issues that face people relocation. And that's why this is what we do. That's why this is what we focus on. So we're talking about New Brighton. Speaking of solving problems, speaking of being a pretty good solution for a lot of people, New Brighton has so much to offer and such crazy value. Let's just dive in. All right, y'all, right now I'm in Hanson Park, which is a really lovely park space in pretty much the heart of New Brighton. And New Brighton is a suburb basically just to the north of Minneapolis. You're about 15 minutes or so to downtown Minneapolis, and also a nice 15 minutes to downtown St. Paul. Very nice equal distance to both of the major cities here, which there's not a whole lot of places in the Twin Cities metro with that. And that's going to be a theme, I think, going forward in New Brighton, is that it's a very unique proposition, and there are a lot of combinations of things that New Brighton has that are very difficult to find elsewhere in the metro. We're about 25 minutes or so to the MSP airport, and just to the north of New Brighton is Mounds View, just to the east is Arden Hills, just to the south is Roseville, and then also the St. Anthony suburb, not the neighborhood or anything like that. There's a lot of St. Anthony's in the Twin Cities. And then to the west is Columbia Heights and Fridley. The population here is around 21,000 people. And one of those things that I was mentioning earlier that is pretty stellar and pretty difficult to beat is the schools that serve New Brighton. A long time ago, I did a video on this channel that was most affordable school districts, or best affordable school districts rather. And for sure, New Brighton shows up on that list. Specifically, New Brighton is served by the Mounds View Public School District, which as a whole gets an A, and it's ranked 11th best school district in all of Minnesota, and it's the 14th best school district with the best teachers in the Twin Cities, according to niche.com. And Mounds View serves all of New Brighton, as well as a bunch of other areas, and about 11,000 students are enrolled in the Mounds View School District, K through 12. The district also serves Arden Hills, Mounds View, North Oaks, Roseville, Shoreview, and Vadnais Heights, and is the 10th largest school district in the state. There's a few different varieties of schools that serve the area naturally. You have Irondale High School, that gets an A-, and Mounds View High School, which serves portions of the east and southeast section of New Brighton, that gets an A. For middle school, you basically have Highview Middle School, which gets an A-. That serves all of New Brighton. And then for elementary schools, you have Bel Air Elementary School, that gets an A-. That serves most of New Brighton. And then there's Sunnyside Elementary, which serves the northern portion of New Brighton, and Valentine's Hills Elementary School, which gets an A- and serves the southeast portion of New Brighton. Do you hear these birds? Birds are absolutely wilding out. On this channel, I like to talk about the private and sort of charter school options available to you, and there are a couple very, very highly regarded schools in the New Brighton area. Totino Grace High School, that gets an A. It's private, 9th through 12th Catholic school, located just west of here in Fridley. Again, Totino Grace has a very good reputation. And then there's the Al Amal School, which is a private Muslim pre-K through 12th grade school, again, located in Fridley, and that gets an A+. The housing stock here, again, is a very unique combination of proximity to the cities, quality of schools, and prices, because the median sale price here is $389, which is a little bit more than the Twin Cities Metro, which sits around the $350 mark, give or take. But when you have all of those things combined, it is one of the best, just at least from a glance, one of the best value to dollar ratios that exists. The range of homes on the market, $224 is the cheapest home on the market in New Brighton, and $825 is the most expensive. So you don't see too extravagant of homes here. There are some beautiful homes. $825 gets you a very cool home here, but there's just not a ton of like luxury style, and it's not a whole bunch of new builds, which keeps that median price down and obviously pretty reasonable. Lastly, 63% of the people who live here live in a home that is owned by somebody who lives there, and 37 by a landlord, property management, etc. All right, let's keep looking around, and we're gonna talk through pros and cons in just a sec. All right, so right now I'm at Long Lake Regional Park, which is a beautiful and I would say pretty special regional park in the northern suburbs. The fact that this is so close to, you know, downtown Minneapolis, downtown St. Paul is pretty cool in my opinion. And it's just massive. Where I'm standing doesn't do it justice. There's no way to really show you the scale just by being here. It's huge. Ton of variety, like unbelievable amounts of trails, and we have a lot of people who this kind of thing is very important to them. It's very important to me, but I want to talk about the pros and cons of New Brighton as I see them. And actually right up yonder, it's all like off-road dirt path, which is cool, and I think certain people really need that, really want that because of, you know, certain hobbies that they're into. But I want to talk about pros and cons of New Brighton as I see them. And for me, with New Brighton, I think there's not actually that many cons. But maybe those cons, it might just come down to like vibe and aesthetic of neighborhood, and potential just housing inventory not being what some people are looking for. There is a pretty good variety of housing stock, but I would say that really the con to me is that most of the housing stock is not that interesting. It's not the coolest housing stock, and a lot of the people who we help want like a home that they're really like love, right? That really feels like a place they're gonna just make themselves at home. I personally find the home to be a very important place for me. And it's not to say there's no cool homes here. There are some really cool homes, but the reality is with median sale price at $390, the homes that gets you are pretty modest. Actually, a lot of the homes here remind me of the house I grew up in, and which is no shade to that house. It was a perfectly livable house, built in the 70s, right? So it's kind of 60s and 70s stock, and that's just personally just not my favorite housing stock. But there's a lot of 50s, there's a good bit of sort of mid-century era homes, and that stuff is really cool. And there's newer stuff as well, but personally, I think the housing stock here is just not the coolest. That is the single biggest con to me, is that I don't know that I would be able to find the house that I want here. But that doesn't mean that a bunch of people couldn't. They definitely do exist, but that's me. Last real con, I guess, is there's not a ton of stuff to do in terms of suburban amenities, in terms of, you know, access to cool things, independent restaurants, shops like that. That doesn't really happen that much in New Brighton. There are some suburban amenities, but just not that much. Mostly you have to leave the boundaries of New Brighton to do a lot of the errands or just kind of cool stuff. But then all of the pros, I've already mentioned them, but I just want to wrap them up into a bow because it is, it's a really interesting value proposition. You have really great schools. Top 10, well, really 11, but one of those school districts is tiny. It's actually pretty much one building. You can go to our other channel called Schools in the Twin Cities, hosted by my buddy Bradford, and he talks about schools all over the Twin Cities, and he will have a deep dive on the Mounds View School District, so just specific to the school district, because so many of the people that we help really care about that. Another pro, beautiful outdoor spaces. I'm in one. It's crazy. It's beautiful. And it's large. It's not just some little neighborhood park just shoved in, which there are those. There's a lot of little neighborhood parks, but it's a beautiful spot with tons of parking for you Californians out there. It's not like, oh my God, I gotta go to the park. Where am I gonna park? There's tons of it. There's so much of those parking spaces in this regional park. And then another undeniable pro is proximity to both downtown Minneapolis and downtown St. Paul. You're about 15 minutes to both. It doesn't get better than that in a suburb in Minnesota. Like, it does not get better than that. You could live in one of the cities and then maybe you'd be a little bit closer, but there really is no suburb with this good of schools, this close to downtown, with all this green space, and lastly, with median sale prices of under $400,000. Undeniable value proposition. Let's keep going, and I'm going to talk through, for fans of, some other spots that you might want to consider if you're liking this. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I have a section that I call it the For Fans of section, which is to say, if you like what you see here, there's some other spots that you might want to check out. It's basically, what are neighborhoods that feel like cousins or relatives to the one that we're looking at? So if you're new to the channel or not, maybe you know, where should you look next, right? If you don't like what you're seeing here, well, then I don't know that I would check out these next spots either, even though that probably hurts this channel. But before I do that, I would just like to say, if you're interested in working with us, we would love to help you. You can go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less, or you can just shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. They lead to the same spot, so it's totally up to you how you do it. But personally, I think the website is just the slickest route. It's fastest, and then we get back in touch and get things going, get things headed in the right direction. Some spots that you might want to consider. And by the way, this is the New Brighton History Center and or New Brighton Historical Society. Pretty cool spot, and it's also still in that Long Lake Regional Park, so it's worth checking out. Again, this Long Lake Regional Park is something special. Some places to consider. St. Anthony is basically just to the south and has a lot in common with it, except it's very small, and I actually think that the housing stock in St. Anthony is very cool. If you like mid-century homes, I think St. Anthony is one of the coolest places where you can find mid-century homes. Then the next up is Roseville, which is also a neighbor here. Roseville schools are different, although some of Roseville schools go to Mounds View Public Schools. So if you like the idea of Mounds View Public Schools, check out the maps, see where in Roseville that fits, and there's some very, very cool homes in Roseville as well. Arden Hills, just to the east, I think that's a little bit more upscale, a little bit more newer suburb vibes, whereas New Brighton is a little bit more of that 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s kind of suburban atmosphere. And then Mounds View, of course, public school districts here in Mounds View, crazy, really, really good. I think those homes are actually going to be even a little more modest than here. And then lastly, way on the other side of the metro, Apple Valley. It's where I grew up, and I really think that there's a ton in common. Relatively affordable median sale prices, similar, I mean, I said I grew up in a home a lot like these, similar housing stock, very, very highly rated schools, and you're on the Southern Metro. So if you like the idea of being on the Southern Metro, maybe Apple Valley is for you. And that's all I got in this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.